name's Sue Lewis and I head up the Careerpilot team based at the University of Bath. So this webinar is aimed really at careers leaders, showing you how your job can be made easier by using the Careerpilot website. And that's the web address there. Just to say that Careerpilot is a free website if you live in the south of England, and that's the geographical area you can see on that map. And the reason it's free is because it's 20 universities and 6 NCOG projects pay subscriptions so that we can make it free in our area. If you're outside our area, and I know there's a few people in today who are outside our area, you can still access Careerpilot, but you have to pay an annual subscription of £450 per year, but then that gives you as many students as you want to and gives you access to all our resources. So what I'm going to talk about is how Careerpilot can support your role. And I'm sure if you're a careers leader, you already know these things. That's about leadership, leading your team, planning your school programme, keeping track at the end of the educational landscape. It's about briefing teachers, supporting tutors who might be delivering some aspects of careers. And it's also about coordinating information about labour market intelligence, liaising with other people in the school like PSHE leaders, subject leaders who might also be supporting careers, and then obviously communicating with pupils and parents. And what I'm going to do is show you how Careerpilot can be the tool that kind of threads careers together for you as a careers leader, but also then helps you meet the Gatsby benchmarks. So to get started, it'd be kind of good to know how much you know about Careerpilot. So just putting up a poll, and I'm asking you whether you're new to Careerpilot, whether you're already using the site with students, or whether you've already started to integrate into all staff roles, or whether you maybe have access to the reporting zone. So it's just good for me to get a feel for who's in the meeting. Okay, so I can see most people are new to it, but some people then have started using it with students. Okay, thanks for that. Let's go to that pool. Okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to try to explain is how you can embed Careerpilot in everything you're doing in the school to promote careers. And the Careers Enterprise Company identify anything that's called careers guidance as the whole program of things you offer, and then the one-to-one personal guidance is the qualified advisor talking to a young person. Those are the terms they use. So within the school environment, you'll want something for students, for parents, resources maybe for tutors and PSHE staff to deliver. Use the career leader trying to organise all this. You'll want things for subject teachers to help them link their subject to careers. We've got quite a lot for that. And then obviously personal guidance. Careerpilot has a lot to offer to the personal guidance process, which I'm going to show you as we go through. So it's really about showing you how Careerpilot can link all those things together, be one resource that all those people can be using to support careers. I want to talk a little bit about how Careerpilot can help young people to be careers ready, and then I'll talk a little bit about how it can support the role of a careers leader, and then ultimately that'll mean that you're able to meet the Gatsby benchmarks. So Careerpilot in overview is it's quite a big suite of resources now. We have a student zone, a reporting zone, I'll be mentioning these things as we go through, an advisor zone, lots of lesson plans and materials, and also a parent zone. So if you're using all these things, it really contribute to you putting a stable careers program together from year 7 to year 13. We're also part of a nationally funded Careers and Enterprise Company bid, which is to do with Gatsby 8, and what we exploring is a whole school approach to delivering personal guidance using an electronic triage tool. So I'm going to just explain that to you a little bit at the end. We're also an award-winning website because in 2018 we won the Career Development Institute Award for being a good quality careers and employability website. So what's been quite good in recent years is we've got the Careers Enterprise Company who are supporting the whole careers agenda, because if you've been around as long as I have, you'll know there's about 12 years in the careers wilderness where not much was happening at all. So we're now picking up lots of information. We've got the Gatsby benchmarks. You can see as a school where you are against those. You compare that with national. You can compare that regionally. So, and also the Careers Enterprise Company has given us lots of research that we can use to support what we're doing. This is an example from a recent survey of 750 careers leaders who felt positively about the direction the careers was going in. I think the other thing we want to do is to explain to our colleagues who may be less into careers than we are how it impacts on grades and how it impacts on the things they have to deliver. So this bit of research from the Careers Enterprise Company, I think, helps to do that. They did some research with year 11s. So one group of year 11s got some careers intervention, the other group didn't. And of course, the ones that had that intervention, they were clearer about their future plans, they're more motivated, improved their academic attainment, and that had the biggest impact on low achievers and the less engaged. So I think these messages are really useful for us to take back to our colleagues in a school or college environment. My question about Gatsby, I think Gatsby benchmarks are great and give us a really good structure, which is really welcome. But I think we also got to be aware of making sure the students are career ready and have the personal career management skills to manage their careers in the future. So it's not just about activities, developing the skills of career management, because they're going to have lots of different jobs for the future. And one thing that we've been doing to help with that is we've put together a 3-minute video, which is like an animated video that tries to explain to students how they can be the managers of their own careers. So how they can know themselves, do stuff to build their CV, know their options in detail, and then use their supporters like personal advisors, but also Careerpilot and other things as well. And that video is now free to use, so I will send a link out to that after this session. So this is Careerpilot. If you haven't used it before, I'll just run through some of the key things. So it's aimed at 11 to 19-year-olds in a secondary school environment, and it can be used every year according to age and stage. So in the site, we have lots of information, which I'll show you in a minute. But if the students register, which they can do right here, straight onto the site, then they get access to the career tools. And this is where they can personalise their choices and build their own report of the job sectors they might be interested in or the providers they're thinking of. And that creates a report, and that populates the report in Zorn. So you can see a whole group of year 11 and see what job sectors they might be interested in, which might help you then to put on encounters with employers to meet individual need, which hits your Gatsby 3 as well. On the homepage, you can also access our advisor zone and also the parent zone as well. So the way your registration works, they click here and they fill in a form, and then they can put themselves in your school and they put themselves in a year group. And then when you've got access to our reporting zone, just completed date sharing agreement, I'll explain more later, then you'll be able to see all the students attributed to you. So if you're not shown there at the moment because you're not in the south of England, then if you decide you wanted to subscribe to us, then you'll be showing here as well. So some of the highlights of Careerpilot. In our top bar, we've got links to well-used tools. We've got lots of job sectors, 800 job profiles. You can do a course search, a provider search, look at a qualification planner, and we've got over 1,000 video stories in the site, which are all mapped to the different parts of the site as well. In terms of what I was saying earlier about trying to encourage students to develop career management skills, in Careerpilot, we have this 3-stage process. Start with you, explore your options, plan your next steps. And quite a lot of our resources are structured under these 3 things. Because students often know that they're interested in a particular pathway, like a job or apprenticeship or A-levels, and they can click on these and get a lot of information and advice about that particular pathway. So the people behind the site, we're ex-teachers like I am and Debbie is. We're also qualified advisors. So we're very passionate about trying to get the right information to the right people. So just to explain how a section looks, this is A-levels, why choose A-levels? What you'll always find are video stories, the link to the topic, a summary of what the students will learn if they read on down, or they can click to the bit they're interested in. But also, because they signed in, they can now be bookmarking things they like. So this is where they're building up their own picture of the things that are important to them. So I'm just going to run you through our 3 sections now, so you can see what's in there. So start with you. We've got activities for different ages. We've got quizzes to help get students started. We've got things like start with a subject to see where it might lead. We've got skills map for pre and post 16, and also a qualification planner. And we'll be mentioning these as we go through. So as I mentioned, Careerpilot can be used in every year group, and it'll be used in a slightly different way according to the decisions that young people are making. Year 7 and 8, for example, might be about more exploring and understanding the landscape. Year 9 might be option choices, Year 10 work experience. So what we've done here, students could click on these, or you could set them up as a tutor, tell them to click on the button to do with their year group. And there'll be 5 suggested activities that would be useful for them to do. They could do loads more, but it's just giving them 5 top things to do according to their age and stage. And then our advisor zone, you'll find introductory presentations. So they're based on having about 50 minutes to an hour in an IT room with your group. So a tutor or PSHE staff member could deliver the session, and all the slides are there. So it'll be an introduction, the activities they're going to cover, and then a plenary at the end. We've also got job sector quiz. So this is a good way of for students to find out what sectors might be worth exploring further. So it's 50 pictures of things you might like to do in a work situation. And then it tells them which sectors they mostly map to based on what they've said. So we haven't got down to the job level, because obviously jobs are changing and some young students aren't ready really for deciding a job. But this does direct them to sectors that they could explore further. And in that, they'll find loads of jobs, and often that expands their horizons because there's lots that they've never even thought of. We've also got our skills map. This is a popular tool. We've got a version for pre and post 16. So this is because when often you ask students what skills they've got, they really are struggling to answer. So what we've done is flip this round and ask them what they've done in their life, their learning, and sometimes their work if they're post 16. So there'll be questions about hobbies, skills, achievements, and experiences. So the first one here, I've committed to an out-of-school sport activity for more than a year. And then if they click on that, it'll tell them what skills they probably have developed already through doing those activities. So physical skills, resilience, teamwork. Then all their skills from the quiz will get put in what we call our skills bank. And this shows how many examples of their skills they've generated through doing the quiz. And the idea then is they add their own. So they've often done loads of things, and now they begin to get the idea that those things are valuable and have given them skills. So, for example, they might put, I've been working with my dad doing wedding photography. So what skills has it given you? And then those will appear, those examples, against that particular skill. So this really helps with Gatsby. So for students being out in work experience, or they have an encounter with an employer, or FE or HE, after that they could put the activity in, say what skills it's given them, and then it's there for them when they come to apply later. So this is very useful, we find, for Year 12 students building up to write their personal statements. And then when they come to apply, courses and jobs, they can say what they're applying for, and then think of the skills they most need to flag up. Might be quite different if you're a nurse or a plumber, for example. And then they'll see all their examples, and then they can think about how they're going to write that ready for their application. And we've got some examples of personal statement, how you'd write that for a personal statement, for example. So I'm in section 2 now, explore your options. And in this section, we've got lots of things about their choices. So they can search for choices by age. So you could click on choices 16, you'll see the different choices, and then you could look into them in detail. Because we're an impartial free website, we can link off to other sites. We're not worried about linking to UCAS or even other services that are free and good quality. So what we've tried to do is give students the information, then link them off to even more useful stuff. So here they can search for jobs, courses, apprenticeship vacancies, providers. They can view lots of stories, and they can see the qualifications by level. I'm just going to show you some of those things. So our job sector is a very popular part of the site, really helps with Gatsby too, because it's got labour market information in there. So they can put a job or sector, then click on a sector, or drill down to one of our 850 job profiles, and it'll tell them what's involved in that job, how they get into it. If they go on further, there'll be video stories about the job. And then the pink bit, this is where they can see the skills required for the job and then their skills map results. So they can begin to see how near they are to that job. And they can add their own examples at this point as well. So it's all about trying to help them think about what they might need to do if they want to get a job in that particular area, because they want to match up with what the skills requirement might be. It's also got labour market information, and it says salary and where it's predicted to grow. And then it also shows employment by region, so students can begin to see, that a lot of these jobs are going to be in London, for example, and have they thought about that? Also, in terms of Gatsby 2, we have our course search, so you could search for 16 to 19 courses or degree or apprenticeship vacancies. So I'm just going to show you degree courses. They can put in the name of a degree, there's a little drop down to help them think about degree type subjects they could do. Put in their postcode, how far they're prepared to travel, then they get a short list. And I know which uni, what uni, a lot of people do this, but we want it all to be in Careerpilot alongside all the other information they've got. And then if they click on any of those, they get a lot of detail about that particular course. And you can see the cross there. Whenever there's a cross, it means they can add it to their career tools. They add jobs, job sectors, courses, apprenticeship vacancies, all building up their own report. Just a few other things from your Explore Your Options section. Qualification Planner. So this shows all the qualifications in England by level. So what students can do is say what they've done already, what they're doing currently, and what they're considering. So they can map their route up through the qualification ladder, and they can click on any of these to find out what that qualification means. And they're often quite surprised to find out the range of things they could do at level 4, for example. And if they have actually tagged things in the qualification planner, then for each of those things, they can actually put predicted or actual grades. So every year, the idea is they would housekeep their Careerpilot account. So maybe I did want to be a footballer when I was in year 8, but maybe I've changed my mind or realised that maybe that's not going to work out. So they can get rid of things and pull things in. And likewise with the qualifications, they can have predicted grades. And then if they're now in year 12, they can add actual grades. There's also Find a Provider, and that is actually at the moment geographically just for the south of England, but we are looking at ways of actually extending that as people from outside our area come on board. And this is where they can put in what they want to look for, universities, for example. And then if they click on one, it'll have quick links into that university's website. So we've got a set of icons like an orange circle. Click on that and that's full-time courses, for example. So it's just trying to make it as easy as possible for students to access what can be quite complicated websites. So the third stage of our process is about the plan their next steps. So this is where they've got their report they can use or their skills map. And we've also got a new little action planning tool as well. So they can set their actions and they can monitor them as well. And we use this as part of guidance as well as students being able to use it independently. So I mentioned the report quite a few times. So that's gathering here in the career tools. I've shown you most of the things. The next steps quiz I haven't mentioned, but that's a quiz to find out what might be a potential barrier for them to progressing onto level 3 or level 4. And we can give you a login. So I think you should have been sent a login so you can have a play. So the report can be accessed here. And in terms of addressing the individual needs of pupils, then you'll know where they are because they'll be saying these are the things I'm interested in. This is really useful to have done it before they have their personal guidance, because if you're an advisor, you've got quite a lot of information that could just help you start that guidance conversation. Even if they've changed their mind, it gives you a focus, I think, sometimes. So in the report, there's their qualifications, their job sectors, providers, bookmarks, whatever else they've added in. And you can also add advisor comments. We use this a lot as part of guidance. They might have done Careerpilot for guidance, might use it during guidance to show options and things. And at the end, we'll write a report on Careerpilot and add some agreed actions with the students. It's all in one place, visible to the student and any teacher in the school. who's got access to that student. So that report moves up annually. A snapshot is saved every year on August 31st. So there's always like a record of all the career decisions and choices they've been making right through from maybe year 7 if you started then. One other thing we have is the reporting zone. I'm going to show you in a minute how you get access to that. But once you've got your login, which you have been sent a login, this should be an administrator login. And the advantage of that is that when you're in, you should see my training school and your name will be at the top. But you can go straight into the student zone from here. You don't need a password for that. If you click here, you can click on the student site. Then if you want to get back, you can just click on the word admin under your name, and you're back in. So it's one login that you can use across both sites. One thing in Gatsby, we're all interested to know the impact of the career provision we're offering, and Gatsby does want us to do that. I don't know if you're familiar with the Careers Enterprise Company Future Skills Survey. We're part of a national careers enterprise company project, and all projects have to use this survey. But they are now making it available, so if a school wanted to use it, they could request access to it through the Careers and Enterprise Company. And that's something you could do like beginning year 11, at the end of year 11. I'll just show it to you quickly. So this asks the students to give their names and what school they go to, and then asks them questions about employability, personal effectiveness, and career readiness. So it could be a useful way to actually show the impact of what you're doing. One thing through Gatsby we have to do as well is get subject teachers to relate their subject to careers, which is quite tricky when they're so busy with so many things. So we've got things in Careerpilot to help with that. One thing in our Know Yourself section is start with the subject. So obviously students can use this directly, but it could really be used by subject teachers. We suggest like once a term or once a year, whatever, where they could click onto Careerpilot, click onto their subject in a classroom, and then actually see where that subject is going to lead. Jobs, university courses, apprenticeships, and college courses. So there could be quite a good discussion, which job earns most, which one's predicted to grow, finding out about those jobs or courses. So that might be half an hour or 20 minutes maybe as part of a computing lesson. A subject teacher could easily do that. We also link to the online courses put up by universities called MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses, which are all free. And what we try to do is map in the ones that link to each of those subjects, because if a student wants to know more, they might be motivated to have a little go at doing a MOOC. Also, Debbie, who's online with me and helping out, she's put together these resources which are really useful for subject teachers because they tie in with a particular aspect of the curriculum that they're having to deliver. So you can see this is Key Stage 4 Chemistry, and it says which aspect of the awarding body specifications this is going to support. So something they're delivering. And then we put in ideas of things that are going to enhance their subjects, so it relates more to careers like TED Talks or videos or other resources. And what we've got at the moment is we've got these for 23 Key Stage 4 subjects, and we're looking at doing Key Stage 5 as well. So I'm going through the different roles in the school, showing you how Careerpilot has something to offer. So I'm just going to talk here about the role of the tutors or PSHE staff. What do they need? Not everybody's going to become a careers expert. We're not asking that, but we do want people to refer students to good quality information. So if they don't know the answer to a question, Careerpilot's a perfect resource for a tutor to direct a student to if they want to know about degree apprenticeships or whatever. As I mentioned earlier, we've got these preset activities for all years, which might be very useful for tutors or PSHE staff to deliver, backed up with the preset presentations. We've also got some other off-the-peg resources that are all available through our advisor zone. Just to say, in our COVID situation currently, we have put up some home-learning resources for students and for staff. We've got a lot of webinars and other things there. But for students, there's an activity you can put out to them so they can actually do a Careerpilot session from home, and there's one for every year group. But also in the advisor zone, we've got materials for every key stage, 3, 4, 4, 16, and some college stuff as well. We've also got subject-specific things I mentioned earlier, which you can request here. We've got other free things like our hot jobs and training, which I'll come back to in a minute. Just note the Pathway Planner icon there, which is our Careers Enterprise Company project. We're rolling that out now, so I'm just going to show you that a little bit later. So as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to encourage schools to think of Careerpilot as a progressive tool you can use in every year group. Those activities for every year, you can just see them in different format here. But to help you with that, we've got 5-week PSHE programs for every year group that Debbie's put together. So you'll find the lesson plans and all the resources for those, and there's one for year 7 right up to year 13. And then the pink ones are 20-minute careers-related activities that could be done in tutor time. So, if you haven't got much time, you could do something crazy like careers bingo and all sorts of fun things. And we've got those for Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. You also want to engage parents. So parents love the main site, so it's definitely worth directing them to Careerpilot. But we also have a parent zone, and this mirrors the Careerpilot site, and it's about choices at different ages or pathways. And if a parent clicked on one of those, they would get the answers to questions that they would like to know the answers to. Things like, what is the difference between A levels and BTECs? That's a popular one, actually. I've also got some video stories of parents talking about being parents the first in the family to go to university and how they dealt with different things. So in terms of Gatsby 8, personal guidance, this is a challenge, I think, for all of us, because young people are supposed to have a personal guidance session before they're 16, by age 16, also another one by 18, and that's supposed to be delivered by a level 6 qualified advisor, which, for some schools is quite challenged. It's a big resource that they might not have. But one of the things the Careers Enterprise Company have done is write some research into personal guidance, what works. We had to use this when we were writing our bid. And that's identify 5 things that are principles of good careers guidance, good personal guidance. And you can see integrations, so it's not just in a room somewhere, it's integrated into what the school's doing. It's given a nice space at appropriate time. There's an element of feedback, preparation and feedback, and that's been a big part of our bid. The interview is effective and offered by professionals with level 6, of course, as well. So Careerpilot has a lot to offer in terms of personal guidance. In terms of that report, if you've done some Careerpilot sessions before, the guidance, as we've been doing in some of our schools, where all students have had, in year 11, for example, a whole 1-hour Careerpilot workshop to explore their options and understand more about their choices, tag things as they go. That creates a Careerpilot report, and that is then there for the guidance advisor to use before they even meet the students, so they're getting information about them. And then they might use Careerpilot during guidance and record the report on Careerpilot. And then we've had a process of follow-up by a tutor about 3-4 weeks after. And this has been the basis of our CEC report, CEC bid. But now we have a triage tool that goes in with that, which I'll show you at the end. So what's really useful is being able to access all those reports, and you can do that through our reporting zone area. So that could be useful for tutors or careers leaders, definitely, and guidance advisors as well. And the way you access that, if you're in our geographical area, is that you request a data sharing agreement through the advisor zone. Then you get assigned by somebody in the senior leadership team, and they tell us who should be the keeper of the password in your school or college context. And then that keeper can actually set up passwords for other staff. And then you have access to your reporting zone, call the name of your institution. It's got 4 functions. You see all your users. So you can see any students who are registered to you. You can subdivide them into other groups, so they'll be there. They will put themselves in a year group, but you might want to subdivide them into tutor groups or pupil premium groups. You can also see reports by group or by individual. So I'll just show you some of those now. One group report is the tasks completed. So you can set a task, and then you can see here when students have done it, and you can look at their report. You can also do things like find out what job sectors year 12 are interested in. And because they're asked when they tag whether you're just exploring or you're definitely interested, that's quite useful information, especially for guidance advisors as well, I think. So these reports can be used to gather more information about your students. Maybe for this one, you could be thinking, what encounters have we got to put on? We've got all these students interested in politics. What can we do for them? And these reports can all be downloaded, so you can put them into spreadsheets and play with them. You can also see reports by individuals. So everything I've shown you in the site is visible through a group report or an individual report. So just make that bigger. So this one you can see everything, the full report, and this is where you can add comments. This is where you can download that report. You can save it and print it and send it to a parent if you wanted to. This is where you can see any previous reports, so snapshots from previous years will be shown there. So in terms of the view full report, you will see everything I've shown you so far, but this is also where you can add advisor comments and actions. And in the advisor comments, if you are an advisor, there's loads of, because the report is quite comprehensive, when you're writing your advisor report, it can be a lot shorter because you already have all the jobs and courses they're interested in. You can write a short report, but also you can put in links to anything in Careerpilot. So if you want them to explore apprenticeship, you just highlight the word apprenticeship, and then you can see the whole contents of Careerpilot and just put the link in so they can go and look at apprenticeship. So it just makes it much more efficient. And also, of course, it's visible to the student and any other staff member. So I've got a few more things to show you, but in summary, what I'm hoping you can see is that as a careers leader, trying to engage a lot of people across the school environment around careers, hopefully you can see the Careerpilot as a lot to offer to your job role. We're also always trying to think of things that are going to be useful for you in terms of your role. So in terms of Gatsby T, where you're supposed to be telling parents about labour market information, we put together our hot jobs. So currently we have 30 hot jobs, and they're in different sort of formats. So there's a social media format you can send out on parents' newsletters. There's a poster format, so you can print them out. And there's an information board format, so you can actually put them on information boards. And some schools now are doing Job of the Week, and we're just about to do another set of Jobs of the Future. So there will be enough for every week in the school environment. We do in the south of England offer free training. It's usually by webinar, unless you're just an hour away from our base in Bath. We do career leader webinars like today, and we also do 1 hour one-to-one consultations with careers leaders. So if you wanted to chat with Debbie or myself about how you can take this forward in your school, and then we could happy do that. We'll do staff training for your school, even if it's by webinar, make it quite interactive. Oh, thanks, Jill. Yeah, they have been popular, the hot jobs. So we do a webinar where staff will be in an IT room and they have an introduction, then they have a play, and then we can kind of do feedback. And I'm just putting together a home learning 45-minute staff training session. So that could be put out to a member of staff over this at-home period, and they could just do an online session. And I will be talking them through that, and a little activity for them to do at the end as well. You can also become a Careerpilot super user. Super users have to hit 4 criteria, like have a link to Careerpilot on your school website, a request of our free materials, that's not hard, have over 100 active students per academic year, unless your special school is less, have access to the reporting zone, or have some explicit way that you've told parents about the site, using our resources or your own. And then you get, if you become a super user, you get a certificate, but you also become our kind of first point of contact, so you might get some resources ahead of other people too. We get loads of positive feedback about Careerpilot. You know, students really don't know all the options, and they love having a place where they can explore all these things independently, as well as obviously through schools. The most useful bits, they like having the Careerpilot account, being able to bookmark and see their report, and they always love the jobs and the job profiles. So I'll take questions as they come in, so do feel free to ask questions. I haven't quite stopped yet. But just to say, we have got a helpline, and Joe and Jackie are on the helpline, and they're there from 9 till 3 every day in term time. So that's just useful if you want to ask a question. You can just put it into the Careerpilot address, you can see there. And if you want to get hold of Debbie or I, then you can just ask the email to be passed on to us. So if you're interested to know about our Career and Enterprise Company project, I'm going to just explain that. So what we want to do is pilot a whole school approach to delivering personal guidance that was efficient but also met the individual needs of students. So we've been piloting our model in 6 schools with 60 year 11s and 40 year 12s, with the idea that those schools now roll it out right across their school, which they're all planning to do next academic year. And it's building on our other model, which I've shown you already, where students have a 1-hour Careerpilot session, which will be quite structured. So year 11 would see all the options, have a chance to explore those options, and then they would do our triage tool, and the same sort of model for year 12. So at the end of their 1 hour, for the last 5-10 minutes, they do our Pathway Planner Triage Tool, and that would ask them about their option choices and then give them a red, amber, green score to show how ready they are for that particular pathway. That data could be seen in the reporting zone and be used to target guidance according to need. And then guidance would be offered depending on the needs of students. And then, as before, Careerpilot might be used in guidance, but to record the report. Then 3 weeks later, we trained the tutors, which took about 20 minutes, to ask 3 questions of the students. Log on to Careerpilot, ask them 3 questions about whether they were still okay with their plan, and if they weren't, they could tie them back into guidance. What we also had was every school offering 1 drop-in session at least a week, and also offering e-guidance, or they could self-refer, and all that was recorded on the system, so you had evidence there to show about interventions. So I'm just going to show you some of those things quickly. So we used the video to introduce career management, as I've shown you. We had structured presentations, like this is an example, which were quite fun, interactive, showing all the options related to careers, then exploring Careerpilot, and then they would do the triage. We had posters around the school of who is the careers guidance advisor. Not that guy, actually, he's just a nice stock image, I'm afraid. And then what the students do right at the end of their 1 hour session, they would actually do our Pathway Planner, which is only switched on currently for our CEC schools, but is now going to be available to other schools if you're interested. So then this is for year 11. They would say, these are the pathways you could do. Which ones are you definite about or considering or not doing? And then for each one they're definite or considering, they could do a quiz, and they would ask them about that pathway and how ready they were. I have an idea what subjects I want to do for A-level. I have started thinking about what I might do after A-level. And each of these questions are weighted, so they don't see that, but what that enables us to do is give them a red, amber, green score for how ready they are for that pathway. And in our project, everybody's getting guidance. It's just going to be different levels. The students don't necessarily know that, but they can see whether they're green, which means they seem to have a pretty good plan. We might just check it. Amber, maybe there's a few things to sort out. Red, maybe there's quite a few things that need to be sorted out. And at the top, you can see there's 3 tabs. There's my timeline I'm going to show you, but also they could request their own guidance. So the first session we set up for them, but if they wanted to re-refer, they could request e-guidance or request another little session. So what that meant was from the reporting zone, you could see reports about the pathways they're interested in, but also you can see how ready they are for that pathway. So in our project, the greens would get a 20-minute check, ambers would get 30 minutes, and anybody who was red, could be additional needs, you can see that blue box there, red, additional needs, or wanted an apprenticeship or college pathway, because they're often quite complicated, would get about 50 minutes to an hour. And in the actions on the right-hand side, you could then book a guidance session on the system, record what you'd offered, and you could see a whole list of all the guidance you'd set up. The timeline, you can see that, and so can the students. So this shows the results of the Pathway Planner on a particular age, what interventions have you given them, and then they would do it again at the end of that, and then they'd have another score on their Pathway Planner. So you're trying to move them from the sort of amber reds into the amber greens by the time they get their results. But they can see their journey, and so can you, and that really helps with Gatsby 3 as well. So if the Pathway Planner is interesting to you, we are now making that available to other schools. There is a charge for this. We don't usually charge on Careerpilot in our area, but we do need to charge for this is on top of what we do already. So it's £299. That's a one-off early adopters cost. So if you join for next year, that's all you'll ever pay. But if you come to one of our webinars, we'll introduce in the Pathway Planner, and then you get it for this reduced cost of £249. And there's a one-off cost for early adopters. You won't be asked to pay again. And what you get for that, you get compulsory training, so we feel it's really important to introduce it properly and explain what we've learned from our project. You get all the lesson plans we've been using, access to the tool, access reporting zone, and then you also will become part of a user group, so we can develop models and tools and take things forward with this early adopters group. In the future, I might go to an annual subscription. We haven't quite decided yet. But if you want to know more about that tile I mentioned earlier called the Pathway Planner and the Advisor Zone, it's got details of our webinars and more information about the Pathway Planner.